Hi, welcome back to Discovering an Educated Life. This is Megan, and I want to talk a little bit today about why we changed our name and some other changes in our life and our curriculum. So I know it's very early in, and I'm already changing the YouTube name, and I just realized early on, if we aren't going to be 100% all in on a Charlotte Mason curriculum that's very Charlotte Mason purist, then I felt like I shouldn't be using that name on my YouTube. I love the Charlotte Mason method, and I use a lot of her methods in my way I teach, and my education philosophy is very much Charlotte Mason. But I'm not a Charlotte Mason purist, and I recognize that, and I think that I really liked the name that I had picked more than, and I still love everything Charlotte Mason and will continue to talk about a lot of her methods, but that's just something I felt was necessary. And we're also going to be making a curriculum change into something that's not considered a Charlotte Mason purist. I would say it is a Charlotte Mason minimalist curriculum, if there ever was one, because it includes a lot of Charlotte Mason's favorite things that people like to talk about with Charlotte, like some of the favorites of Charlotte Mason. Like, it includes living books, it includes nature study, it includes dictation, it includes copywork, it includes solid biblically sound lessons. It's something that we've loved in the past, and with some current health issues going on with me, I just don't have the time or the energy to dive into the planning that's going to take for me to do some of the other more traditional Charlotte Mason curriculums. And I love them. Guys, I love A Gentle Feast. If you are interested in finding just a great Charlotte Mason curriculum that's very planned out for you, please take a look at A Gentle Feast, and don't use my video to discourage you in any way. I don't want to. I just didn't have the time in this season of my life to plan it. And I needed something that was telling me exactly what to do and that was easy. And I don't mean easy in the sense that it's not challenging for my daughter. I mean easy in the sense that I can plan it in a way that doesn't take me 4 hours on Sunday night, because that was where we were headed. And one day missed with an ER trip, and I felt I felt like it was fragile. My planning was fragile and it was crumbling. And I just knew that wasn't a good way to start our year. So 2 weeks in, I pulled the plug before it ever got to the point that we were behind, before it ever got to the point that I was regretting it. I said, let's just sell it. Let's just stop and sell it. And this was a gift, this massive mug right here. And I felt very much like this was our days. The whole pot of coffee in this lesson plan definitely required more caffeine for me. Maybe for some people it works really well. And I know for some people, I don't want to say maybe, I know for some people it works really well. And my brain just works a little bit differently than that, especially when it comes to planning. I like to have a checklist, and I like for things to be there for me. And it just wasn't. And I really needed something like that. So we are back to my father's world. And this is easy for me. I can still work on my mother culture and educating myself, but I can do that while my daughter's getting a very full education, and I don't feel like I'm depriving her of that. And when I don't have time to sit down and plan all these beautiful lessons, it's okay, because my father's world planned beautiful lessons for me. And so that's where I was at. The scheduling in this, it's there. I'm just going to open to a week and show you. This is week 3. We have our little grid, and they gave it to me. And so when I want to plug it, I can just plug this right on into my Erin Condren planner. And I don't have to be like, okay, so this is science, and it should take 15 minutes, and let me build this little grid and do all this. And again, if I had the time, I love how that looks and works, and I kind of have an understanding of how to stagger lessons. And Julie Ross from A Gentle Feast definitely gave me that understanding. And like I said, if I had the time to feel like I could just go in and do that, I would. But I really needed what's here. And let me tell you what that is. It's planned crafts. My daughter's crafty. She loves crafts. She loves doing hands-on things. It's planned in. If I need to do a science experiment, it's planned. They give me a list of supplies. Well, this is not it. This is a special week. Right here, there's a materials list right here for each week. And so they also give you a list of like every supply you might need for the year that they're expecting you already have. And then they're also giving me that weekly list. And so before I ever get to the week, I can kind of jot that down in my planner and say, hey, I need to go shopping and get the things for these science experiments or this craft for history for this week. And it's all planned. So it's also the book list. My library list is planned. Any extras I might want to add, they plan every little extra and every little thing for me. And in a season of life where I just feel like I'm not having that time, it's amazing to have that done and feel like I'm offering my daughter just a very good, very broad scope of education where she's getting everything from history to composers and art, and she's getting it all in a way that I don't have to really think a whole lot about it. It's there. So this is also scripted. That's huge. I have a script. They're not just telling me like, read this and discuss with your child. I don't necessarily follow the script word for word, but I have, like, for my Bible lessons, there's a script there, and I can read right from it. The name Jesus means the Lord saves, but what does he save us from? And then it has read John 3:16, and it even gives the page number, page 1716, which is in my daughter's Bible that was provided with the curriculum. And then it just goes on to have a script that says, if we believe in Jesus, our body will die, of course, but we will live forever with Jesus in heaven. That sure sounds wonderful to me, and I can't imagine how wonderful heaven will be. And then there's more. That's just the little intro to that Bible lesson. That script is super helpful. So I'm not just having to come up with like a full plan on my own. I usually just pre-read and kind of know what I'm going to say from that script. I don't read that to my daughter necessarily sometimes. But see, this is the thing. If there's a day like last week when I had to go to the ER and I have a lot of different things going on with me health-wise this year, if I didn't get the chance to pre-read that, I can just read it aloud. And that's why it's important for me to have that, because I'm not getting to all the pre-readings. Like a traditional Charlotte Mason would say, like, pre-read all of your child's, all their lessons, all their books, and I'm not getting to that. And that's really hard because then it makes me feel like I'm not prepared. And I can be prepared as long as I put in that little, like, 20 to 30 minutes of work at the beginning of the week. And I sometimes will read through those scripts. But if I don't get to those scripts, I don't feel like I can't teach today. They're usually in other curriculums. I've got today's where it's like, today I did not get to do all my pre-reading of my things I had going on for this week. I didn't pre-read all my Bible. I didn't pre-read all the history books. And I would feel really jumbled. Just like, let's just take today off. And I don't feel like that. So I just want to encourage moms, the best curriculum for you and your family, because there is no perfect. Do not let anybody tell you there's a perfect curriculum. The best curriculum for you and your family is the curriculum you get up and do. And so if there's a curriculum out there that makes you just get up and do it every day, and every day you're checking those boxes, and I don't want to say checking the box just for the sake of checking a box, because I don't like to rush. I don't like to just feel like I'm just working through these lessons just for the sake of them. If we need to stop and pause, we will. But what I mean is, if you're getting through what you need to teach and you're teaching and educating your child, that's the best curriculum. Whether it's unschooling, whether it is a box curriculum, whether it is a strictly Charlotte Mason or classical approach, whether you do Waldorf or Montessori, whatever type of education that you prefer or that works for you, whatever curriculum works and you get up and do it, that is what works for you. So just be encouraged by that you don't have to stick to something that's not working, because that's the last thing that's going to be helpful to you and your children, is that if you're dreading it and you're not getting to it and you're feeling overwhelmed. And like I said, that was it. It's not that I was dreading A Gentle Feast or that I was hating it. I actually loved it and wanted to love it so much. I just didn't love it for us, and especially in this season. Maybe in a different season I would have felt differently about it, but I also am very firm on trying to stick with something. And so that sounds contradictory, but what I mean by that is if we're going through history and I'm sticking with like a cycle of history, I want to kind of stick to that cycle. I don't want to jump around because that's how you get gaps. It's the same with math. Like, we use Singapore math because Singapore math works for my daughter, and I'm not going to jump around and try other stuff and have gaps because she learned 6 different ways how to add. And like that, it just doesn't make sense. So I kind of feel the same way about our history and Bible and all of that. So this is also one of the other reasons we changed is this is very biblically sound. I feel like when I read this, I sometimes get a lesson. I am convicted by things I read in my father's world. I have been. And so we've completed their kindergarten and first grade year, and I never walked away feeling like it was lacking any way biblically. It was very, very, very goes right along with my beliefs. So that's what it was, young earth, creationist viewpoint. And it's non-denominational, but it definitely left me feeling like I had a Bible lesson a lot of days. And as a mom with young children, sometimes I don't always get in my Bible lesson, and I've been working on that a lot, but that's important to me, that like I'm teaching my daughter something that's biblically sound and it's making me feel fed at the same time. I mean, those are always going to be the highest ratings for me when I find a curriculum that does that for me. And it definitely, my father's world definitely does. Another thing is the ease of use. I pick it up and go. Like I said, I do like to pre-read. I do like to kind of plug it in. So I will like take those lessons I showed you and I just plug them right here into this Erin Condren planner. I like to do that. It's helpful, but I wouldn't have to. And I did first grade without a separate planner. I did my planning right in my guide. I don't like that because I kind of like to have a record that's separate from my guide. And then we don't have any other children. But if we ever do or ever want to get rid of a curriculum, we have the option because I didn't do it right in the guide. So that's another thing. And lastly, I want to say this is low cost. That's another place I was at. Whereas other curriculums may seem low cost because you're not paying a lot for the teacher's guide, sometimes the books can be really hard to find. And that's where I was at also with the Gentle Feast. It wasn't just the planning, which again, I don't dislike A Gentle Feast. It wasn't just the planning though, it was the fact that my father's world comes with the books I have to have, and then there's this library list, and those books tend to be in the library. And A Gentle Feast chose really great books, and I was really excited about them, and I actually bought all the book list and will probably include some of those books in our book basket time. But one of the problems for me was that some of those books were older, and some of those books they didn't have even at my library, or I was having not just a hard time, but I would find a book on like Thrift Books or AbeBooks and it would be like $45 for just like a picture book. And I was, okay. And I think that has some to do with the COVID season we're in, like with COVID-19 and so many new people homeschooling. And I don't think that's necessarily just an issue with the curriculum. I think that's more of an issue with just the season we're in right now. Well, because of that, that just made it really hard for me to continue with it because I can't afford to spend $45 on a picture book. I'm already spending hundreds, if not thousands, on other resources to teach my daughter. So to spend that much on that was just a really, that was a lot. And so that's the best way to put it. Like financially, this I bought Adventures, and I think Adventures with my math, language arts, and even like with my composer studies, and I bought the deluxe package, and with my art supplies and picture studies and everything combined, I probably came in around like $600 or so. And that's with everything, and that's buying it new. And a lot, I think it's 50% of my father's world's proceeds go to missions. So I also didn't feel like I was just like paying Amazon, I was giving it to a good cause as well. Like what I was purchasing was going to something good. So I just want to encourage you, not that you have to use Adventures in U.S. History, but that if you are not loving or you're struggling with something you're doing for school, change. I mean, I'm not telling you to go out and just change your curriculum repeatedly, but don't feel tied to it. Don't feel like you don't have an option, because you do. And as a homeschool mom, you already made the decision to do the best thing for your child in the current season you're in. You make decisions based off of what you feel is best, whether or not you wanted to homeschool this year, or this is your first year, or you're only doing it for 1 year because of COVID-19. Do not feel like you have to stick to a decision. And that could be either way. Don't feel like you have to stick to the decision to send your kids to public school. Don't feel like you have to stick to the decision to do virtual learning. Don't feel like you have to stick to the decision to pull your kids in homeschool. If you feel that the best thing for your children in this season is to go back to public school, you're the one making the decisions for your child. So I just want to encourage you that you know what's best, mama. You can do this, and do not feel tied to a decision. You don't feel like you're married to it. You can make decisions, and decisions are fluid, and the situation's fluid, and things change every day, and seasons change. And sometimes while something might be working for one season, it may not work in another. And let me know what you guys are using this year. Let me know if there's ever been a time you had to make those hard decisions to change. Comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and like my page. And I look forward to seeing you next time.